Hi guys, and welcome once again to Curated Logic, where we try and up your brain game. I have said it at least once on this channel, and in this episode, I have to say it again. My little brother has taste. So far, I have reviewed 2 games that my little bro has suggested, the classic I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and my favourite game of the past few years, Return of the Obra Dinn. You can find links to my reviews for both those games below, but this video is about the next pretty damn good game I played on the suggestion of that little brother of mine. So, without further ado, let's get into Inscryption. Inscryption is a deck builder card game set over 3 distinct acts. After finding yourself at the beginning of the game trapped in a dark cabin, you spend most of the game facing off against various creepy characters in card battles, pitting deck against deck. Your deck, initially at least, is made up of different animals, each of which have their own strengths and weaknesses, and each of which can be a part of a winning deck. So, as with almost every card builder game, you must find the combination that not only works for you as a player, but also against a variety of foes, with boss battles, at least in Act 1, comprising of the creepy Lishi adopting new personalities with new decks and abilities that have to be accounted for, forcing you to adjust your deck accordingly. But the card game playing part of the game, although the main element, is in no way the complete game. Within all 3 acts, there are a number of other escape room-esque trials that are there to test your mind, whilst also helping you progress in the game. In fact, some of these other puzzles are a must to solve if you don't want to find yourself having to repeat the same gameplay again and again. This was something I discovered after initially concentrating too solely on the card battle elements of Act 1, with the game basically taking me back to the start when a final task could not be completed. I thought this frustrating the first time it happened, as I don't often enjoy rehashing the same thing again and again, but given there are times where if you are playing too well, the game puts things in play that basically make it impossible for you to win at that point, forcing you to start over, I quickly understood that this initial repetitive aspect of the game is important. And despite putting me off slightly at first, once I embraced the need for failure, it didn't feel like a flaw, but made me feel more in tune with the game and its style of teaching, enjoying the experience of playing it more. But this uncertainty of the game's motives at the beginning was not the only thing that made me question the quality of the game right off the bat. The graphics of the cabin and clunkiness of movement in Act 1 I found made the game feel older than it was, but not in a nostalgic or cute way. It initially felt like one of those games I loved back in the day, but that I couldn't help but hope for an updated, more sleek version of years later. However, even with this feeling carrying over a little again in Act 3, in the end, the starting concerns that made me predict at most a 7 out of 10 as a final score for the game were washed away by the sheer enjoyment of everything else Inscryption has to offer. There are a number of aspects that make Inscryption a very good game, but to fully explain why they work, I find surprisingly hard, although I certainly will try. The main point, obviously, to focus on is the card game itself. I have never been a massive fan of deck building card games, and yet I really enjoyed this one and very quickly was drawn into the way it used my brain. The card game is simple enough, and like most other card games, relies on a bit of luck as to what you draw, but there is something in the combination of its simplicity and the way it balances strengths and weaknesses on most cards that make building the perfect deck and understanding how to use it to its full potential challenging. This is helped along by the fact that some cards on their face do not seem useful, but are presented to you hinting at hidden powers. It is up to you to use them, sometimes more than once, to find out what these hinted at abilities are. Because of this, even after finishing the game, I felt the possibilities of playing the game differently and more efficiently were many, and felt eager to go back and try to do so. This was also highlighted by the number of secrets and puzzles outside the card game that there are to solve. As I said, some of these puzzles are a must solve if you want to finish the game, but others are not. Solving some may not be there to make it possible to finish the game, but there to make it easier to finish and more fun. And others I still haven't solved and I don't know what they are for. But intrigued enough I am that I will definitely be going back to find out. Despite hinting at a slight frustration at points with the graphics, there are also other moments where the aesthetics are quite endearing. Each act has a different feel aesthetically, and the SNES-like feel of Act 2 is particularly nostalgic for me and felt natural to play. There is also a lot of humour in the game despite its horror motif, and I found myself smiling at its cuteness more than once, especially when one of the cards in Act 3 I was battling against just happened to be based on my little brother's Steam profile. But you will have to play to find out how something like that happens. Also, despite being slightly confusing at points, the story does a good enough job of moving the game along and keeping you engaged throughout. And yet, even after mentioning all that I have just mentioned, I still don't feel like I have hit on the head why I like Inscryption as much as I do. It is unsuspecting in how good it is, and made me question what it is a good game makes. Not only that, but it is a game that, if you are like me, will definitely be getting you to come back in the future for another round. So, considering all that, I give Inscryption an 8 out of 10. Despite not completely knowing exactly why, the feeling I have for the game after playing it is one that just cannot be ignored. So that was Inscryption. If you have played Inscryption and have a view on it, or could maybe explain why it's so good better than I can, please let me know in the comments below. I love getting others' opinions. And if you have any suggestions for games for me to review or walkthroughs for me to do, also let me know below. And of course, if you want to continue upping your brain game, like and subscribe to this channel for more reviews, walkthroughs, and puzzle gaming fun. I hope wherever you are in the world, you are keeping safe and happy. Until next time, keep upping your brain game and have fun. See ya.